Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you. My name is Anita Vadva. I am Executive Director of Restorative Houston, and we're here to honor Linda White Legacy Day. And as I was looking up the people who were showing up and reading your bios, I realized that her legacy is not just her story and the work that's happened in the past, but I believe all the connections that are yet to be made amongst people on the call as we hear one another's stories to uplift her name. So we have a short program of 30 minutes, and then the 30 minutes after that will be available for anyone who wants to offer their own memories of Linda. But I would love for us to first hear from Janet Connors, and I will then share a few memories of Linda White's work in Houston. And so I'm going to stop share here. Janet, just so folks know, is another one of my mentors with restorative justice. And I met her while I was doing my dissertation. And she is the first woman who initiated a victim offender dialogue with one of the men who took her son's life. And she's a dear friend of mine, and she has a beautiful voice. And I thought it would be fitting to open this with the gift of her song. So, Janet, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Anita. Hello, everybody. Oh, I hear the voices of the ancestors calling. Yes, I hear the voices of the ancestors. Wake up. They say, wake up. Listen, listen, listen. May the rivers all flow free, and may the mountains be unspoiled. May the air be pure and the trees grow tall and the earth be shared by all. Oh, I hear the voices of the ancestors calling. Yes, I hear the voices of the ancestors' song. Stand in your power. They say, stand in your power. Listen, listen, listen. Keep on and be wise. Keep on, be wise. Listen, listen, listen. Listen, listen, listen.
Oh, I'm on mute. Thank you. That was beautiful. Um, I'm just giving people a few more minutes to come, but I wanted to share with you the work that we do. I am an educator, but I left the classroom after 17 years, and we are a community group, and our mission is to train Houstonians in circle keeping so that they can help build community and repair harm in all of our neighborhoods. So I just wanted to share some memories of a time where she visited my students. This is from 2019. On the left, she's with one of my students, Leslie Lux, who now works at the women's shelter in Houston and is a wonderful restorative practitioner and has done many trainings, including with Dr. Armour. I believe she was one of the students who co-presented with us. And here you can see her speaking to our restorative justice class. But I was really touched to find my grainy footage of her hugging young people after she spoke to the auditorium. So I wanted you to just see her because if you have felt one of her hugs, you know what it's like.
Oh, she's good. God bless you and keep you. New Orleans. God bless. Do y'all all want to do a picture together?
And I have one more beautiful video that was offered. Xavier, thank you for sending this over. And I'm going to share this before we transition to hearing some speakers and then the reading of the proclamation. Is the sound okay? You can hear everything? Okay.
It's just such a powerful concept, this restorative justice, this Ubuntu, this idea that it's not us versus them, it's us. It's just us. And so I began to look for ways to do things differently and to talk a different narrative. And you know, to say to the world that, you know, just because my daughter was murdered doesn't mean I'm angry and bitter and going to live my life that way the rest of my life.
Look at the stars, look how they shine for you, and everything you do. Yeah, they were all yellow. I came along, I wrote a song for you, and all the things you do. And it was called Yellow. So then I took my turn. Oh, what a thing to have done.
All of you that have been incarcerated and are part of ICANN, if I know you or don't know you yet, I still love you. You and the teaching I've done in prison, that's been the most healing thing I've had. Most healing thing that's happened to me since my daughter was killed. And it's meant the world to me. It's meant the world to me.
Her daughter Amy is going to be joining us shortly. Thank you for that beautiful video. I just smile when I see her. I saw a few of you smiling too. Just smile, you know. I'd like to start with Brian Kelly, if you would be so kind as to begin. And I'm going to share a little bit about Brian. And while I don't know y'all, please excuse if the bios that I found on Google, if they're outdated or you feel like, oh, I don't really, just give me a little grace, but I'm really inspired. So Brian Kelly is a man whose life story embodies transformation and hope. While serving a life sentence, Brian encountered Dr. Linda White as his college professor, and her influence left an indelible mark on her journey. Today, Brian serves as the Outreach and Engagement Director at Crosswalk Center, a reentry discipleship program in Houston. He previously led the Prison Entrepreneurship Program as CEO and has traveled nationwide advocating for prison reform and the power of accountability and faith in Christ. Please join me in greeting Brian Kelly. I will pass it to you.
Thank you, Anita. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. When I met Linda White, I was in Huntsville serving a life sentence for murder. She was my visiting college professor teaching a psychology class in prison called Death and Dying, certainly pertinent to what I was in prison for. Linda encouraged me to go deep into my journaling, into my thoughts, my pain, into my past, and to put it all down on paper. During that class, I shared in my journaling that I was preparing for the Victim Offender Mediation Dialogue program, hoping to offer answers and healing to my victim's family. Linda kept me after class. She showed such intense interest in that program, and only later did I find out why. Her own daughter had been raped and murdered, as you know, and that was the very reason why she was teaching in prison, to be a part of the solution. 2 years later, in senior seminar, she kept me after class one day to tell me she had gone through the mediation with the man who had killed her daughter. As she shared that experience with me, we both cried, tears of unimaginable pain, but also of unexpected hope. She said, Brian, you have no idea how you changed my life by sharing that opportunity with me. But the truth is, it was Linda who changed mine. Her courage, her faith, her radical forgiveness showed me what grace looks like when it's lived out in flesh and bone. Years later, after 22 years in prison, I was released. Linda and I reconnected when I prepared for my own mediation with the two daughters of the man that I killed. Linda walked with me yet again. She helped me think through what to say and how to love well in that sacred moment. That mediation was the hardest and most healing thing I've ever done. And because of Linda's influence, I heard the most precious words I've ever heard. I heard those two young ladies say, I forgive you. Linda White's life reminds us that restorative justice is not a theory, it's the gospel in motion. It's love that redeems even the most difficult of circumstances. Through her forgiveness, Lynn became a world changer. And through her life, she showed us all that even out of tragedy, God can bring resurrection and abundant life. I am forever grateful of how God used Dr. Linda White, forgiver emeritus, to change my path and my life. Today, I follow in her footsteps to be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. May God bless you eternally, Linda. And I'll add one other thing. That song, Desperado, that you played at the onset, I shared with her one time that I felt like that was the theme song of my life. And she looked at me with such a great, gracious smile. And she goes, I've got desperados in my life too. I understand. So that broke me up. So thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. I love that. Forgiver emeritus. That is a new one, as well as radical forgiveness. Really appreciate that, Brian. Thank you so much. I am going to now pass it to another mentor friend, Dr. Marilyn Armour. As a restorative justice practitioner and scholar, Dr. Armour promotes building mindsets that embrace victim-centered restorative justice principles, including victim healing and building of community through restorative solutions to harm. Dr. Armour is the architect of the Texas model of restorative discipline to redirect over-reliance on punitive measures that, in effect, exclude students from the classroom, and has directed the initiative in partnership with the Texas Education Agency to implement it statewide in Texas, the first state in the country to undertake this effort. So Marilyn is now far away from Texas. I miss her, but you're allowed to leave, and I understand. So I will pass it to you.
Thank you, Anita. I'll try to get through this without crying. I haven't been able to do it yet. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak this day and to share my love and deep regard for this woman and her indomitable spirit. I came to Austin in 2001 to teach at the University of Texas at Austin, Steve Hicks School of Social Work. Several years earlier, I'd been exposed to victim offender mediated dialogue by David Dorfler, director of the emerging program at TDCJ. He had driven me all over Texas to interview a select group of victims and offenders about their experiences in the earliest dialogues conducted by the state. David kept telling me that I had to meet Linda White. We were both professors, and she had done her dissertation on VOMD, so he assured me that we had much in common. I don't remember much about our early meeting, except that Linda struck me as driven in the best sense of that term, determined, totally committed to advancing restorative justice, and deeply embedded as a member and pioneer in Murder Victims' Families for Reconciliation, a national organization of family members of murder victims and the executed that advocates for the repeal of the death penalty. That initial impression was reinforced over and over again as I watched her fight for the advancement of restorative justice, guided in part by her extraordinary VOMD experience in meeting with Gary Brown. That openness to learning, which is part of Linda's profoundness, and then turning that learning into action, was demonstrated repeatedly. For example, Linda was resolute about the fact that although she was a teacher in prison, her students, the inmates, had a far more powerful and personal impact. Quote, teaching in prison for 8.5 years, she said, led me to a place of forgiveness. That influence showed in her realization that, quote, the criminal justice system just answered violence with just more violence, and that wasn't comfortable for me. And subsequently, in her involvement on the board of the Campaign for the Fair Sentencing of Youth, a national nonprofit that seeks to ban juvenile life without parole and other extreme sentences, as well as her engagement with the Texas Coalition to abolish the death penalty. In a letter Linda wrote protesting the upcoming execution of Billy Joe Wardlow, who had served 25 years after his conviction as an 18-year-old, Linda said, Billy was just 18 when he broke into Carl Cole's home and killed him during the course of a robbery and case in Texas. He had no history of violence whatsoever. My own experience has shown me that individuals who commit heinous acts as youth are capable of change. Researchers have found that the areas of the brain responsible for impulse control, rational decision-making, and judgment are not fully developed until youth reach their mid-20s. It's for all those reasons that a prediction of future dangerousness required by Texas capital sentencing statute cannot reliably be made for someone under 21 years old, and why Billy Joe Wardlow should not be executed by the state of Texas. Indeed, in the publication American Scholar, Lincoln Kaplan notes that Wardlow had become in middle age a trusted, peacemaking, and in many ways an exemplary inmate. Quote, Wardlow stands out as someone the legal system has wronged repeatedly, especially in deciding his punishment. The depth of Linda's love is shown over and over again in the multitude of trips she made to prisons throughout this country and internationally. When she would describe these visits with inmates, she would light up with energy as if she were, quote, home. Indeed, she would chuckle, remembering how delighted the inmates were to meet her. Having watched Meeting with a Killer, they felt fortunate to be in her presence. Linda would brag, I'm famous in prison. I'm a movie star. Ellen Halbert, herself the victim of a home invasion and rape, and later both director of victim services under Ronnie Earl in Austin, and the first crime victim appointed under Ann Richards to serve on TDCJ's Board of Overseers, agreed to serve as mediator for Linda's victim offender dialogue with Gary Brown. Ellen also helped steer the filming of the 4-hour dialogue with Lisa Jackson through TDCJ and its myriad of politics. The film gave Linda a powerful tool to spread the essence of restorative justice through prisons, both in the United States and abroad. She frequently commented excitedly about where she was traveling and who she met. She was particularly enthused about being a guest in 2014 and again in 2017 at a restorative justice symposium at San Quentin. There were numerous inmates, known and unknown, who after hearing and engaging with Linda, dedicated themselves to restorative justice work, both in prisons and after release. I was witness numerous times to the power both of Linda's story, but also her amazing ability to teach and reach the hearts and souls of people who were frankly pretty naive, young, intellectually astute, but otherwise wet behind the ears. For close to 20 years, I taught a restorative justice class to social work and law school students at UT and later at Vermont Law School. Although I used numerous speakers to bring restorative justice concepts to life, Linda White and Ellen Halbert were by far the centerpiece of the entire course for students. Year after year, I would ask Linda if she would again make the trip from Houston to Austin to show the film Meeting with a Killer and sit in circle with the students before and after the film to process their reactions and answer any and all questions they had. Indeed, Linda continued to make the journey to Austin and back again to the Woodlands, oxygen tank and all, through 2021, after which I retired. While students watched the film, Linda and Ellen would sit in the hallway outside the classroom, catching up on each other's lives. Linda would say to me, "I think I've seen this enough times." Afterwards, she'd talk about her family's reaction to the making of the film. She'd bring them up to date on Gary Brown. And Ellen would chime in about her experience as a crime victim and the many ways she had influenced the growth of the restorative justice movement in Texas and nationally. And of course, in the circle, the love and respect these two women had for each other would be palpable. They knew each other well. In closing, I'm deeply appreciative of the myriad of ways that Linda gave and gave and gave. Her enthusiasm for life, her mission and sense of passion for challenging inequities, the depth of her humanitarianism, and the hope she embodied for us all is something I cherish and hope to remember for a long, long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. I can hear her voice. She had that dry humor sometimes, or maybe she wasn't trying to be funny. I don't know, but just the one-liners. Amy, are you able to come on camera? I'm gonna have someone else speak next, but I just wanted to check in.
Hello, guys.
Hi, Amy. Do you want to speak in a bit, or would you like to speak now?
If I could have a little bit, I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll check in a bit. Yeah,
Thank you all so much for sharing and for being here. It's been beautiful so far.
of course. So, our next speaker is, y'all are very respected. I was about to say respected. Everyone is. John Sage, the founder and CEO of Bridges to Life. Before beginning Bridges to Life in 1998, John's professional life was spent in real estate and finance. In 1993, John lost his sister Marilyn to a violent act of crime. For the next 5 years, he struggled with the trauma, rage, and grief of this tragedy. After much spiritual searching, John was led to participate in a pilot prison program called Sycamore Tree, where crime victims went into prisons and shared their stories. John was profoundly changed by this experience, which not only enhanced his own healing, but powerfully impacted the inmates as well. Wanting to extend this experience to other crime victims and offenders, John founded Bridges to Life. John, I'm going to pass it to you.
Okay, thank you. Great to be here, and I'm pleased to speak about Linda. I guess first sentence about Linda, she was a bright light. She just lit up the room. She was certainly on the ground floor of the restorative justice movement in Texas. The restorative justice movement is, Marilyn could speak to this better than me, but it's not that old. It's, in the last 30 years, I think Howard Zehr wrote the book about 40 years ago. So relative to other movements in the United States, it's new. And she was one of the ground floor people, along with Ellen Howard, Marilyn, and others, that brought this to many people. Marilyn was involved in our first couple of pilot projects in 2001 at the Walls Unit in Huntsville, sat in circles with us, and her presence was great and her influence was great. I think the greatest contribution she made to Bridges to Life, to our work, was the Meeting with the Killer film that Marilyn spoke about, that Ellen Halbert was a facilitator, and Amy was involved in it with the man that killed her mother and Linda's daughter. But one of the more interesting things was Linda would come to prison and kind of sit in the back of the room, and we'd have 50, 60 inmates in there watching the Meeting with the Killer video, and last about 45 minutes. Then she'd just walk up to the front of the room unannounced, and it was very profound. She did this a number of times, and her presence was very profound in that setting. We'll never forget that. She was just she's just a person that was always upbeat, even with her oxygen tank carrying it around everywhere. I was really involved with her more in the early years, I'd say 15 to 27 years ago. And I'm so pleased that she continued to spread her light. And it's great to see younger faces on this call that are going to continue this movement going forward that she influenced. And I have no idea that nobody knows the great influence she had on so many people and her presence. And she traveled everywhere to spread the word about this. And obviously, she is the example of forgiveness, and the fact she went on back to get her PhD, and so she could teach in the prisons is a great tribute to her. So I'm just honored to be here as one of the people on this call, one of the people speaking about Linda, and I'm so grateful that she's been recognized in this proclamation, which is well deserved. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you, John. I hope I'm included in one of those younger faces because I could use that. That's funny, right, Janet? Youth is relative. We're going to have one more person speak. Well, we're going to have a few more speak, but we're going to have Terrence Sampson speak before I read the proclamation. And then we have two more speakers and we can open it up if anyone else wants to offer. So Terrence, I will pass it to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Terrence Sampson. To say that Dr. White had a profound impact on my life is an understatement. I was incarcerated at the age of 12 for a murder that I regretfully and sadly committed. And I met Dr. White when I was 21 at the WIN unit as I was pursuing my bachelor's degree in psychology. And I'm gonna tell you that it was been different points in my life where I could say that, I had to look at myself in the mirror and, and accept, some of the terrible choices that I had made in my life, and, and it was hurtful. Well, she was probably like the second time that I had to look in the mirror, because when she shared her story, I felt a sense of a conviction, because I was like, I actually, did something similar to hurt, someone in this manner. And it was the first time that I had ever heard the victim's side of the story when she shared, the video that they had did with HBO. And initially, I felt ashamed. Like I couldn't, I took her classes, but I felt ashamed. I couldn't look in the eye. I avoided talking because I felt so convicted in my heart to know that I had, committed, something that was similar to what she experienced. And one day after class, she pulled me to the side and she told me, she said, "Well, I just want to check on you and ask you how you've been doing." And I said, "I'm doing fine." She was Miss White at that time. She hadn't got the doctor yet. She was still Miss White. And I told her that I was fine. She told me that she had received a letter, or it was an email asking her to protest against my release. And she told me, she said that she used to be part of these groups that, parents of murdered children, and things of that nature. And so we got to talking, and I broke down in the hallway, like, just with her. And I just expressed to her, that at that time that I felt so ashamed, just like even being in her presence, knowing that I inflicted, because it made me think about my own victim's mother. and what the type of pain that I inflicted upon her. And that one day began, a friendship that lasted, for what, 20 years. And what she did for me was that she helped me to understand not only the victim side of the story, but that restorative justice was possible even in my life. Like that it was like forgiveness was possible even for me. And it changed the way in which I looked at wanting to, receive that forgiveness and show my remorse, to my own victim's mother. And that began my process, towards that, which eventually led to me taking Bridges to Life in 2000. About 15 years later, I took the Bridges to Life program. And shortly after taking the Bridges to Life program, I was able to meet with my victim's mother. We went through the victim offender mediation process, and I was able to express their remorse. And of course, that was so life changing for me. And so, had it not been, for God placing her in my life at that point in my life, to help me to understand that the change was possible, that forgiveness was possible, that me showing my remorse would be so much of a help, because I never thought I could do anything for my victim's mother because I had hurt her so much. And she showed me that there's something that you could do. And that's exactly what I did. So I'm gonna stop right there. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to honor her in this manner because she had a great profound impact on my life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terrence. I'm so grateful you could be here. Um, Amy, if it's okay, may I present the proclamation to you? And Bree, okay.
And
You're
Bree
gonna
is
get
on.
this and Bree, yeah, to both of you. So I'm gonna have Linda's photo in the background, and I am pleased to be able to read this during International Restorative Justice Week. Oh, the first thing is I was going to show it to you. This is called, technology, but this is the proclamation. It's so pretty. I wanted folks to be able to see it. This is the proclamation signed by for Linda White Legacy Day.
Beautiful.
It is, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and have her in the background while I read it to present to Amy and Bree. Whereas on November 19th, 2025, during International Restorative Justice Week, Restorative Houston will honor the memory of Dr. Linda L. White, a beloved Houstonian who passed away on July 3rd, 2025. And whereas Dr. White embodied extraordinary strength and humanity following the tragic loss of her 26-year-old daughter, Kathy, who was murdered in 1986. Though faced with unimaginable loss, she chose a path of dialogue and healing, ultimately meeting with one of the men responsible for her daughter's death. This profound act of forgiveness and openness became the subject of the documentary Meeting with the Killer, One Family's Journey, and has inspired countless people around the world. And whereas after her daughter's death, Dr. White returned to college to study grief and loss so she could educate and support others. She earned her BS and MA in psychology from Sam Houston State University and her PhD from Texas A&M University, writing her dissertation on Texas's program of victim offender mediation and dialogue in crimes of extreme violence. Her scholarship and lived experience made her a guiding light in the fields of restorative justice and victim support. And whereas Dr. White worked with victim offender mediation, peacemaking circles, Bridges to Life, and the Campaign for the Fair Sentencing of Youth, she taught inside prisons, mentored students, and spoke to communities across the globe, consistently demonstrating empathy, compassion, and the possibility of reconciliation even after profound harm. And whereas, in remembrance of Dr. White, Her work will be recognized nationally by the restorative justice community, and it is fitting that her hometown of Houston honor her first. And whereas the city of Houston, along with Restorative Houston, recognizes Dr. Linda L. White's extraordinary legacy of healing, courage, and reconciliation and love. She is a true daughter of Houston, whose contributions and dedicated work will continue to impact victims, survivors, incarcerated individuals, and all who seek healing and justice rooted in humanity. John Whitmire, Mayor of the City of Houston, hereby proclaim November 19th, 2025 as Dr. Linda L. White Legacy Day. So Amy.
Thank you for reading that, because I can't. The first time I read that, I just did what I'm doing now. It's just so, I just feel so honored. I feel so blessed that she was my mom. I'm gonna try my hardest to, I have really big shoes to fill, but I'm going to continue the work that she started, and I really hope to reach half as many people as she did. But I make that vow. Thank you. I just thank you all. And I'm just hearing all these stories. I mean, I knew about how she impacted so many people's lives, but to hear it from that actual person. And I know a lot of you, like, because of your names, but I haven't had the opportunity to put a face to the name yet. And now it's all kind of coming together, and I would love to be able to communicate with some of you, or all of you, after this, and just know that if there's anything that I can do to help out, or volunteer, like, I would like to get involved in Bridges to Life. And John, it's nice to finally meet you. But yeah, so thank you very much for reading that, because I just couldn't have gotten through it. And then Bree and I will come and pick that up from you.
We're gonna
in a
meet.
couple days.
We're gonna meet at
Yeah.
Olive Garden, because that's where Linda always wanted to meet. And
Yeah.
Bree, did you want to say anything? You want to say hi?
Hi.
No pressure. Hi. It's just nice to hear your voice.
Yeah.
You want to add anything?
I don't really know what I would add.
You don't have to
No
add.
story that I have with her is like nearly as beautiful as anyone else's story here that has spoken. Like, I don't know, like
But y'all had they had a very special relationship, because my mom,
we did.
yeah, my parents have raised my daughter. And so
I guess one thing I could say that I actually forgot to say at her funeral was when I was 10, that's when I first realized I was bi. And I was way too scared to come out to my dad and my stepmom because I didn't know how they felt about like gay people. So I was like genuinely scared they were gonna kick me out. So before I told them, I literally packed my bags just in case. And then I texted Linda, and I told her. I came out to her because I knew that she would support me no matter what, and she was always there for me no matter what. So yeah, and of course she was very accepting. And yeah.
That's a beautiful story. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Thank you so
She
much.
had to be the most progressive 80, well, from I think, because her and my dad, they were in the Houston oil and gas industry for forever. So there used to be conservative Republicans. And I'm not saying anything bad about any political party now. I'm just saying that over the years, she completely changed and was one of the most progressive women I've ever met. You know, especially for being the age that she was. And I love that about her. How open-minded she was, how open-hearted she was, how tolerant she was, and how she just, you know, she just loved everybody and believed in inclusivity to, you know, to her core. So, and of course, there's all the restorative justice and forgiveness and the reaching people that just, she literally has not only changed lives, she's saved lives. And that's, and I, the only thing I just wish that she was here, just, she would feel, oh, she would be so honored. She would be just drenched in tears right now. But what's funny is we used to make fun of her for crying so much, and now I cry so much more than she does. Isn't that right, Brie?
Yes. All the time.
So thanks, Mom. I got that from her. Okay, so we're
Definitely.
gonna right now.
She was definitely the glue for a lot of people. I would say not just for her extended family, for you all. Um, she really was a guiding, well, is a guiding light. And we had a few more people who wanted to speak, and I wanted to pass it next to Dina Verhallen. You can correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Read the bio I have, which is for the past 16 years, volunteer Dina Verhallen has been sharing her story of loss, grief, and healing with inmates in the Bridges to Life program at the Halbert Unit in Burnett. Through sharing her story, inmates have come to understand the impact that their crimes have on victims' families and those around them. This allows them to reflect on who they were then and where they are now. The program has given both volunteers and inmates the chance to bridge that gap and connect in a way that has impacted everyone's lives. So I will pass it to Dina.
Thank you. Well, this is a very surreal moment for me because I see in Maryland, I did not know Linda very well, but I had an opportunity to meet Linda at a very grief-stricken, raging time in my life. In 2006, I started Bridges to Life as a volunteer, asked by a friend to come in and just volunteer. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no interest in criminal justice system. And so I did sit in a Bridges to Life season, and I would hear victims share their stories. And I thought, I'm in over my head. This is too much. But I was reassured, you know, to stick it out. But then in 2008, my daughter was murdered and she went off to college. She was 20 years old, Glenn University. She was strangled in the middle of the night. It's like every parent's worst nightmare, by a maintenance man. And I never understood anything about the criminal justice system. So it was through that process that the regional director at the time introduced me to Ellen Halbert, who was at that time the director for victim services. And then Ellen, I didn't know anything about Ellen. I had no idea of the magnitude of that woman. And then she had me meet Dr. Marilyn Armour. And they decided to mentor me, take me under their wing for 2 years in a crime grief counseling group, which I didn't even know what that was. And they walked me through the justice system, and they helped me all along the way. And then eventually I met John at one of the graduations, Mr. Sage at the graduations, and I didn't have a clue who he was. And this is surreal for me. This is a moment in my life right now. I am so thrilled that Marilyn offered to take me to a Linda White viewing in Austin. And she said, "You need to come and see this," because she was trying to explain to me restorative justice. And I thought, I don't understand this. I was just so frustrated and angry. And Linda sat with me for 20 minutes, everybody around, and she just came up to me and explained her side of what was important for her to want to have a peace in her heart, a restoring sense of understanding that we are dealt with in such a tragic time in our lives. And it really helped me huge, and it set me on a path with Ellen, Marilyn, John, the regional to restorative justice movement. And so I'm now the regional coordinator for the Austin area, which I didn't think I could even do that. And I love it very much. And I'm very grateful that God put people like Linda, Marilyn, Ellen, and John, my boss, Jim Buffington, who knows the pain of what this is. And I'm so grateful for all the opportunities that I've had in this movement. It's taken me around the world. I know what it's like to go into different prisons. And Marilyn called me one night when I was in Thailand, and she said, "Are you going to be able to speak on a panel at UT?" And it's just really helped me a lot through my life. And it's helped me talk to legislation out in Washington State. Jennifer Graham, to just work in this restorative justice movement. I'm forever grateful, and thank you all so very much for having me on here. Thank you. So,
Thank you, Dina. It's
yeah.
an honor to meet you all. It's an honor to know the work that continues to happen in Texas. I wanted to drop one resource here. This is a link to a book that was written that includes Linda and Amy's story, There's a Bomb in Wichita Falls. I'm also dropping in a GoFundMe that I created to support Amy, Bree, the whole family, because there is a lot of financial duress happening right now with Linda's estate. I think Amy's comfortable with me sharing this, and I'm really trying to be a support because it's a really hard position to be in, to handle the estate, to potential foreclosure on Linda's home. And so if you're able to, I have dropped the link, and I will drop it so that it doesn't look like that. No, that didn't work either. I'll figure it out. But in any case, there's also Zelle information because Zelle does not remove fees, but however, whatever which way is convenient, no amount too small. I'd like to, and I know we're about 10 minutes to wrap up. I'd like to pass it to one more speaker, and then we can open it up if anyone wants to share before we close with song. So our next speaker is Xavier McElrath Bay. Please correct me if I said your name wrong. Is a champion for the human rights of incarcerated children. Through his work as the executive director of the Campaign for the Fair Sentencing of Youth and a co-founder of the Incarcerated Children's Advocacy Network. You all are so busy. Y'all are just, woo. Xavier fights to abolish life without parole for children in America. During his earlier years at the campaign, Xavier played a crucial role in ending this practice in several states, including Nevada, Utah, Arkansas, South Dakota, and North Dakota. Xavier's passion for this work stems from personal experience. At the age of 13, Xavier was charged as an adult for a first-degree gang-related murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. After serving 13 years, Xavier came out with a remorseful heart, a bachelor's degree, and a mission to advocate for youth. So I will pass it to you, Xavier.
Thank you so much. And I'm happy I'm going last. And the reason why is it's such a reminder that Linda's impact, I can only imagine, as proximate as we, have been in her life and as much as we wish we still had her here, the reality is that she was sharing herself with so many people. giving to the world in so many beautiful ways. And there's one story that I'll always think about and reflect upon, and where I've seen how just the way she showed up and the way she loved so deeply really helped to transform lives. And I want to give time to others to share. And I would love if Jody can share a couple minutes too. Jody met Linda, I think as far back as 2009, 2010, during the time of our very founding of our organization, and really impressed upon Jody the intuition of restorative justice and what does that mean for people who committed serious violent acts as children, including murder, which is what I was convicted of as you read, Doctor. And I feel, I feel moved to share the story because I want to give you a sense of, first and foremost, what it means to be a child in the system. As someone who lived through that existential nightmare, it becomes a moment where while you're fighting through every daily waking moment, trying to survive, trying to navigate sometimes very volatile and challenging environments, you have those moments when you're by yourself. You're in your cell, you're walking the yard, you're in deep reflection, you're in this soul searching moment. Sometimes you're praying, sometimes you're just meditating, sometimes you're closing your eyes and you're just questioning the meaning of life. And in those moments, sometimes you wonder what is the meaning of life and how quickly we've thrown our lives away and how horrible the narrative about who we are is a dominant theme of our lives and unfortunately has shaped this very egregious and unimaginable nightmare. But of course, coupled with that is a deep remorse, the sadness, the mourning of the person that we're responsible for having taken their life or being or playing a role in the loss of their life. It's a thorn in our side that never goes away. It's something that motivates us to change and become someone better. And as I describe it, as living out our eternal apologies. Some people do that behind prison walls for a very long time. Despite the lack of a light at the end of the tunnel, they give back to those around them. They mentor younger people who are serving. They create programs. They invest in their own healing and that of others around them. They create even organizations that are focused on the most vulnerable people, creating food drives, raising awareness, cancer awareness. Like I can go on and on about the amazing things that many of us have committed to behind walls, even while having very little hope. But then there's always that little part of you that wonders, would the world ever see me for who I really am? Will the world ever see beyond that dominant narrative, that mugshot, the most heinous thing I did? Will they ever get a chance to see who I really am inside? And to know that deep down, I don't want to hurt anyone. And that more often than not, what really happened was the manifestation of the traumas that we experienced, the victimization that were unaddressed in our lives. And sadly, those things manifesting in a very devastating way. And then imagine someone who experienced loss, someone like Linda who has all the reason in the world to not forgive. And Dina, thank you for sharing your story. I'm so sorry for your experience, but I often say God knows what He's doing.
Yes, he
Knows
does.
what He's doing, and I think much like for your life and that of Linda, you know, some people I think were meant to be angels on this earth. Sometimes that happens through unimaginable suffering. Sometimes that happens in ways that, unfortunately, we never saw it coming for our lives, but we find ourselves, interestingly, at the jaws of unimaginable danger and harm to others, and yet God has well positioned you to be a voice of compassion and reason. And I think that's what you and Linda represent for many of us. And I will share very quickly. In 2015, we were trying to pass a bill in Arkansas, and interestingly, what we did not anticipate is that one of the judiciary committee chair members was Rebecca Petty, someone who lost her daughter to an adult offender. Sadly, that reality was something that shaped her life in an unimaginable way and really instilled in her a deep sense of anger and frustration with the system. And she oftentimes wanted it to be more punitive, more retributive, and all those things. And what we didn't anticipate in our bill hearing, which was actually going amazingly, in which I was able to share my story. Our then legal policy director was sharing about the Allison brain development research, the emerging science that helped to inform Supreme Court decisions and really helped to create momentum in states surrounding us. And interestingly, the moment Rebecca opened her mouth, our bill died. The moment she expressed her loss and the sadness of which she experienced, was still living through, and really her lack of compassion for those who are serving for serious offenses, much which like infected her life, our bill was killed in an instant. I remember months leading up to our next meeting, our next visit to Arkansas, and I remember us questioning, well, who can come and speak to Rebecca? Like there was just in our mind, there was no way in the world anyone would be able to get beyond what she was going through to help her see that kids are different, to understand that kids deserve something more. And I remember us thinking instantly, Linda White. Linda's the one. She's the only one that we can think of, the sort of silver bullet, so to speak. I mean, but what I mean by that is like someone who we knew can make an impact if she did so much, she could be proximate with with Rebecca. And so we took that trip to Arkansas. Linda graciously always offered herself to support in many ways, air tank and all. It didn't matter. As long as she had batteries, she was good to go. And I remember us going to the state capitol, us going into a room there, meeting with Rebecca, and in that, in I think an hour and a half, 2 hours, we shared our stories. In the moment that Linda opened her mouth, the moment that Linda helped Rebecca understand that she knew what Rebecca was going through, it just changed the room. We were all crying together. We were all there. I would say, what we did not anticipate is that soon after that meeting, once the tears were dried, once the embraces took place, right before we walked out the door, Rebecca asked us, because we wouldn't have dared to ask her, but she said, "Do we all have a bill sponsor yet?" And reluctantly we said, we had Missy Irvin, who was a senator on the Senate side, but we did not have anyone any representatives to sponsor our bill. And when we said no, we had no one. And she said, "Well, why didn't you? She said you should have just asked me." And so I would just say this: the woman who killed our bill 2015 became our lead bill sponsor, a champion because of Linda. In 2017, our bill made it with a unanimous vote out of committee and a strong vote on the floor of both chambers. Within a matter of weeks, we were able to see that legislation pass with flying colors. And as a result, instantly, over 100 people who were condemned to die in prison, who are living out the nightmare I described a little while ago of having to deal with the existential reality of someday dying in prison, despite who you really are. Well, Linda was able to create a moment for many individuals, for the walls to be torn away, for those bars and curtains to be opened up so someone can look inside. And as a result, and much like Linda would have anticipated and said very, very confidently, that if you look and get to see who they really are today, I'm sure you would find positive change. And lo and behold, of the 100+ individuals who are given the meaningful opportunity for release through review, 80 of them have been released now. 80 of them are out, they're free, they're living their lives. They're in Arkansas, they moved to other states, they're creating families, they're giving back to their communities, they're living out their eternal apologies, and they're always gratefully remembering the awesome advocacy and love that came from Linda. And I know, hearing from your stories, that these are just a fraction of the many lives that she's impacted. But I want you to imagine what those 80 people were going through. They were supposed to die in prison, and they're free today, and they're doing amazing, great things to help vulnerable people. And I just want to just end there. And I'm sorry for taking more time than I hope. It was hard to put all that, even in a matter of minutes. And so we love you, Linda. Thank you for all that you meant to us, and we'll continue to honor your name.
Thank you, Xavier. Great to see you.
And I would say most extraordinarily, I would say I'm excited that, Amy, Bree, you all will carry on her legacy. You're doing that now. I'm very proud of you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a beautiful story. I am aware we are at time, and if people need to drop off, they can. However, I'm able to stay. And if there are people who wanted to speak, I know Sunny had to go. I don't know if Sunny wanted to say anything.
Was it Sunny Schwartz?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I'd love to hear from her. Did she log off already?
I thought she was still on the list. She might have dropped off. And then I wanted to open it up. Xavier, you had mentioned
Jody?
I don't see Jody, I don't believe, but if
Yeah,
there's
I
any,
think she might have had to jump off for another meeting.
yeah, I understand. We all have a lot of meetings. Is there anyone on the call who wanted to say something before we close with song? Well, Janet, if you wouldn't mind, this has been such a beautiful experience. Mindy, it's great to see you. I'm so grateful that y'all connected me to different people who were part of Linda's orbit. And so, Janet, if you could close with song, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you, everybody. My heart and soul were touched so much. We do not live here alone. We carry our ancestors in our bones. We do not live here alone. We carry beloveds in our souls. We do not live here alone. We carry each other in our hearts, ancestors in our bones, beloveds in our souls, each other in our hearts, in our bones, in our souls, in our hearts.
Thank you, Janet. I'll be reaching out to everyone who attended with some of the resources we talked about, the articles, the link to the GoFundMe, and just appreciation. And I hope we can stay connected. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anita, for putting all this together, and thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you all.
Thank you.